What's going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here. Hope you guys are having a great week. It is Monday, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how I was able to get my probation terminated more than a year and a half early. So make sure you stay tuned for this video. Alright guys, welcome back, and as I promised, we're going to talk a little bit today about how I was able to terminate my probation early, what the process was like, what steps I had to go through, was it easy, was it hard? We're going to explain all of that in this video, so let's jump right into it. I worked for a doctor's office in Savannah, Georgia, who was over prescribing pain medication, and because I decided to turn a blind eye, thinking it's none of my business what he does or what anybody else at this doctor's office decided to do, I thought at that point, well, I'm not the one writing the prescription, so why would I get in trouble? Turned a blind eye, just continued to go to work every day, and before I knew it, a couple of months later, feds came in, raided the place, ultimately ended up taking a plea. If I would have went to trial, I was looking at anywhere from 10 years to 20 plus years, depending on what they decided to stick to us. There was a 52 count indictment, and by the end of this, keep in mind this all started in 2011, is when we actually found out there was charges. I fought it until 2014, where I ultimately took a plea. The plea capped the amount of time they could possibly give me. So the worst case scenario under the plea that I took, the most amount of time that they could give me was 60 months. There was no minimum, so anywhere technically from 0 to 60, even though my PSR and my guidelines pretty much told me I was not going to be getting probation. Now, going back and wishing that I've known things that I know now, I wish I had done a lot more work and effort into my personal narrative, character reference letters, building a mentor group, community service, really just how I dealt with everything and not just relied so much on the sole information that my attorney was presenting, which was not bad information. There was just nothing else that was done on my part because I didn't know and I didn't have an awesome YouTube channel to go watch. So going forward, ultimately, I was sentenced to 42 months. And as you guys know, I was able to qualify for the residential drug addiction program, which after my good time, so 42 months minus my good time was roughly 6 months off for good time. Then I received an additional year off for RDAP, and I was able to work my ass off and ultimately end up getting an additional 11 months of federal halfway house. So at the end of the day, on a 42-month sentence, I ended up serving actually 13 months in the prison and 11 months between halfway house and home confinement. Following my BOP requirement, I was also given 36 months of supervised release, which is kind of like federal probation. 36 months of probation seemed like a long time once I started it, just because initially I had to call the color line every day. And for those of you that do not know what the color line is, it's basically a phone number that you call every morning. And if they call your color, you're assigned a color. Like the color that I was originally signed was brown 2. So every day I had to call this color line. And if they said brown 2 on the recording, that is how I knew that I had to go down to the office that day and give a UA. Basically, I had to go pee in a cup. This would happen, I would have to call it every day, and I'd probably have to go down 2 to 3 times a month is how it ended up playing out. You never knew when it was going to happen. It was just very random, and I could see why they do that. They want to make sure they're keeping people on their toes, especially when they're early into probation, making sure that they don't mess up just because no one's monitoring or no one's watching you. So after a couple of months of going through this, eventually my probation officer called me up and he said, "Hey, Mr. Wise, good news. We're taking you off of the color line. You no longer have to call the color line every day." I was like, "This is awesome. What does that mean?" "Well, you're still on probation. We can still call you in at random. You just don't have to call this color line every day. So it gives you a little bit more freedom to not have to think about one extra thing." And this is all due to good behavior. This is to doing what you're supposed to do, completing certain things like community service, basically just being very transparent with your probation officer, which we're going to get into that in a little bit here in a second. Once in a while, they would call me and I would still have to go down and give a UA. at random. He would call me up in the morning, usually, and say, hey, how's everything going? How's work going? How's the family going? By the way, I need you to pop in today and give a UA. What time works for you? So he was pretty good with working with my schedule, and I would usually get down there early afternoon, go down there. I was usually in and out of there within 10 to 20 minutes. If there was other people waiting, sometimes it might be a little bit longer, and the inconvenience is really part of the consequence, what led us into this position to begin with. So I never allowed the inconvenience to affect my mental state of mind. It was real important that every time something happened that was frustrating due to probation or anything along with what got me into this problem to begin with, I always told myself, this is part of the price that you have to pay for making these choices earlier on that led you to federal prison. That's how I kept a positive mind frame around it. Not to mention, I've been talking to you guys the entire time through my YouTube channel, and speaking to you guys on a regular basis also really kept it fresh in my mind to be grateful that I'm finally on the other side of this. So let's jump forward now to when I started to attempt to get off of probation early. What I came to learn is technically after 12 months of being on supervised release, you can file to get released from probation. Now, some of you might know this, some of you might not know this. My case was out of Savannah, Georgia. So even though I live in Washington State, my probation was still, for all intents and purposes, housed out of the Southern District of Georgia. So when I went to file to have my probation early terminated, I had to file in the state of Georgia. So like if you go on Pacer or you look up my public record, you can see the motion that I filed, which was on September 22nd, 2017. And just 3 days later, September 25th, they sent back a response right on Pacer saying denied. Motion denied for early termination. I kind of expected it. I'd only been on probation for just over a year at this point. I was hoping maybe, seeing all the things that I've been doing, staying out of trouble, doing the right thing, thought maybe I had a shot, was worth a chance, and it got denied. So I reached out to my probation officer, said, hey, they denied it, which we kind of expected. What can we do? He said, look, I'm going to put in a transfer of your probation, have your probation transferred from Southern District of Georgia to the Eastern District of Washington. I was like, well, how long does that take? He said, it depends, but we'll work on it. So we started this probably, I would say, in October of 2017. We put in the request. The request technically did not come back all the way officially till January or February of this year. And he said, hey, it's official. You are now on probation in the Eastern District of Washington. I said, all right. So now it's time to refile my motion. So we use the paralegal that we use for a lot of you that does a lot of the filings in helping you guys with additional halfway house time or in other situations, trying to get early termination on your probation. So we refiled this motion, and we really went through it this time with a fine-tooth comb, really illustrating everything that I had done, all of the achievements that I had made. The fact that I stayed out of trouble, that usually goes without saying. Staying out of trouble on probation is really expected. If you're not doing at least that, you can probably count on your probation not getting terminated anytime early if you're not doing at least the bare minimum, which is just stay out of trouble. Now, above and beyond the bare minimum, what are some things that you guys can do to increase the likelihood of getting off of probation early? What are you doing as far as community service hours and community involvement? Some of you may have community service hours as part of your probation conditions. Even if you do not have community service hours as part of your conditions, go out and involve yourself in the community, going to schools, going to churches, talking to people about how your circumstances have changed because of some decisions you made early in life where now you had to go through the federal prison system, or maybe you were sentenced directly to probation. But explaining this to other people could be the difference from them making a similar decision or them making the right decision and going a different direction. So by being very open and vulnerable with the situation that you put yourself in can go a long way in the eyes of your probation officer, especially if he's going to be generating any type of report. What else can you possibly do to increase your odds for early termination on probation? Be transparent as possible. And when I say transparent, if you are walking down the street An officer asks you a question. Do you know where the local Dunkin' Donuts is? If you have interaction with any type of law enforcement, make sure the first thing you do the minute that conversation is over is you pick up the phone, you call, and either speak to your probation officer, leave him a message, maybe shoot him an email, and even a text message if you have his cell phone number. Because I can tell you the one thing that my probation officer told me, and this is the same thing I've heard from other probation officers, is they do not like to hear anything that you've been involved in from somebody else. They like to hear it directly from you first, because that shows that you are not trying to do anything to be shady or to hide anything. Now, another key factor into getting off of probation early or supervised release is what you end up putting into your motion. The motion that I filed, I do have a link to it in the description of this video. You can also go directly to Pacer and you can see it there as public file. But what goes into your motion, I would say, is equally as important to the end result. You need to illustrate what it is you're trying to achieve. Paint the picture of what you did wrong when you did it, owning the decisions that you made, how you've identified where your thinking went wrong, what you're doing now with your life that shows that you are on a positive path to not reoffending, recommitting, possibly putting yourself into a negative situation in the future that could ultimately lead you back down a road of whether it be federal prison or even some sort of a little county mix-up. They want to see that you've got what it takes to keep yourself out of the situations that you once put yourself in. How have you changed your thinking? How do you focus on consequences now? What's different about you now versus prior to starting this entire process? If you can illustrate that properly and paint that picture to where a judge that's reading it in a matter of minutes can go, okay, this is somebody that is at least talking a really good game, and what they're saying makes a lot of sense, because they are going to reach out to things like your probation officer and possibly some other avenues to make sure that what you're saying is factual. If you do all of this in a very professional manner, showing accountability, showing vulnerability, showing that you've humbled yourself and you've learned from your mistakes and you've built this mentor network and you've maintained and forged a positive relationship with your supervised release officer or your probation officer, this is going to increase the opportunity of early termination by tenfold. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to get early termination. Not all districts will do it. Some judges just, no matter what you do, they're not going to do it, and there might not be anything that you can do about that. If you owe tons of money in restitution, that may play a factor. If you haven't done your special conditions, like maybe you have community service, some things that you're supposed to do, and you haven't gone out and taken care of these yet, but you're thinking, I'm going to go try to get early terminated, you can probably count those as strikes against you, as they're going to say, well, he hasn't even done the basic requirements yet. Why would we want to do something for this person and give them a break on how much time they were sentenced to supervised release? So my advice to you is do everything that's required of you, and then get with a service like ours, or pick up the phone and give me a call. My information's on every single video that we post, and we can come up with a strategy to create the best possible opportunity for you to possibly be released from probation early. It does happen. It happens all of the time. I've met several people that have been terminated off of probation early. But the one thing that we all have in common is we've done things for the right reason. We've created progress. We've changed our habits. We've formulated a well-written oral argument as to why we would be a good candidate to be removed from probation early. If you do all of these steps in the proper order without skipping steps or thinking you have it all figured out, or you're just going to write some handwritten letter to the judge, if you do things the right way, your chances increase. It's really that simple. In case you can't tell, I'm extremely excited about being off federal probation. It really opens the doors to so many other things that I've been wanting to do that I was prevented from doing due to the fact that I was on supervised release. I'm not allowed in other prisons while I'm on supervised release. Other prisons have asked me to come speak regarding the residential drug addiction program and how I've used my time taking this program and how I'm now utilizing it in my everyday life. This is what the program is based on. The core values of RDAP are how you can learn these tools, re-identify with these tools while you're in prison, and take them with you and apply them into the real world. And that's what I've been doing every single day since I've left prison. So I've had a lot of opportunity to go back to prisons to talk about how I've been able to implement this into my own life. The minute the prisons find out that I'm still on supervised release, that's when they go, oh, we can't have you come in yet until you're off supervised release, prison policy. Now, I thought maybe that was just a couple of different prisons and their policies, but what I came to find out is it's every federal prison, BOP nationwide, that has this policy. So now I'm officially off everything. I no longer have any obligation to the Bureau of Prisons. I'm free and clear. Still can't vote, can't shoot a gun, but everything else is pretty much open to my grasps. Now it's time to start planting these seeds, going back into the prison system, speaking to people that are sitting there in those very same seats that I was sitting in, telling them what I wish somebody had said to me while I was sitting there. Life after prison does not need to be defined by what it is that you're going through right now. It may feel like you're not going to be able to succeed after this. You might think a felony conviction on your record is going to prohibit you from doing anything successful in life. I promise you, if you have enough drive, enough dedication, and enough will, the rest of it will fall in place. You just cannot give up. That's all I got to say to you guys today. I just wanted to do this quick video. I told you guys when I got off of probation, I was going to let you know how we made it happen. Thanks to you guys being so supportive over the last couple years. You've really helped this channel grow. You've helped our business grow. We can't please everybody, but for those of you that have shown us the gratitude and the respect and continue to praise our name, I thank you guys so much. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time. As always, people helping people, communities method, one day at a time. Do not forget to hit the thumbs up and like this video. Share it with everybody you know, guys. Have a great day. I'm out of here. Peace.